Welcome to the Superfacts Show on the Superfacts Network, featuring St. Laz, who also hosts the popular web series Gem Pop, and music journalist Mark Walter Ward. They have discussions about hip-hop, culture, society, philosophy, and everything else. Now available on YouTube and wherever else you get your podcasts. What up, world? It's your boy Mark Walter Ward, the Superfacts Show, Superfacts Network. Recently, I was in Orlando to see Just Rich Gates and J-Haze perform at a UFC Fight Night event, and then they went and recorded at Hollywood Cobain's Orange Studios over there in Orlando. And it sounds insulting when you say I was struck by the professionalism, but I was struck by the professionalism inside of such a hectic environment. For those audio files, this man had some amazing presets, and he just, I don't know how to put it any other way. You just have a good energy about you. So I found him interesting. So I'd like to welcome Hollywood Cobain to the show. How you doing, brother?
I appreciate it, man. Appreciate you having me on here.
Oh, no doubt, no doubt. Thanks for joining me. Well, like I said, you're clearly highly proficient at your craft. It's almost a disservice to call what you have a home studio. It's more like a portion of your large house has been turned into a professional studio, different rooms and all that type stuff. So I guess, how can you give us a little bit of your origin story and some of the more notable points of your career?
Yeah, really what it comes down to as far as like the home studio, and that's a whole other thing, is that used to be one of the hardest things to get artists to understand. Like, it's at my home, but it's not your ordinary home studio. Like I got I got a Neve studio board. I have, the Newman, the 67. Like I had the equipment to get, the tools to get the job done. Plus what I do when it comes to engineering, I've been doing it for a long time, and I've been doing it for a long time professionally. And so, but yeah, that was always one of the things when people hear home studio, they're like, I don't know about coming there, but to be honest, I've worked with a lot of artists in the industry who, they come and record in my crib, and like we could go to, big studios and do it there, but they prefer just coming to the crib and recording here because, what I'm saying, we can make some green tea, they can just chill and smoke and record, and what I'm saying, like it's just more relaxed being here. And also, like, I don't have to sit here and switch all these knobs and everything. Like everything is set to my studio, and it's run proficient. So when they come in here, there's no playing. Like, what I'm saying? Like, it's just they hear themselves the way they know they should hear themselves.
How'd you get started?
It always was about a necessity. I wanted to, I wanted to be an artist, and I am an artist, but there's the way I kind of got. Yeah. But I was rapping, what I'm saying? But I didn't have anybody to record me, so I got the tools. I didn't have anybody to make the beats, so I started making my own beats, and I did everything. Certain situations came up where I was brought into the picture, and I just, I did what was asked of me. I was never one of those people to be like, oh, I do this, I do that. It kind of always happened where they were like, yo, like, what else do you do? And I'm like, well, if you want to know, I can show you some samples. And then they hear it and they're like, oh, so you can produce too, you can sing too, you can rap too. And that's how I'm in random albums, random songs where, I may be singing a hook, I may be producing it, I may be engineering it. But for the longest time, I was just the engineer. I never really, I did my own thing as far as musically, but professionally, I was basically the engineer. And then one of the ones was that got me started was Cassius of Shady Records. Yeah. I think I was like 21 years old when he brought me into the fold.
Okay, shout out Cassius. He had that $5 CD. I remember that.
Yeah. Me and him, man, we've done so many albums since then. But like when I was 21, I engineered the entire Art of Dying album. I think it was like, I want to say it was like 19 tracks, and I engineered about 15 of them within a week. Like I had a small deadline because we had worked on the album for like a year and a half, and then all of a sudden they just scrapped it. He signed with E1 for a deal, and next thing you know, it was a completely different album that we've been working on for the last year. I think only a couple records actually stuck from the time before that. But anyways, that was like my first introduction to like, engineering on a big stage. And I didn't really have, back then it was just, before I learned like how to use the EQs and the compressions, like I definitely used that for that album. But what started me was learning how to record proper, because I didn't know anything about EQ and compression and reverb, delay. All I knew was, well, I didn't know anything. So what I did was I recorded and I learned how to get good levels. I learned how to use my panning and how to use, voluming to my advantage. And then once I was introduced to EQ and compression, it was just like, oh, then it was just learning the sounds, the frequencies. And over time, I just kept, perfecting it. You hear things differently after a while. So you come back to the studio and you're like, oh, I could do this. And it's kind of like creating your own theories. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, so definitely.
Over time, it kind of got to where you hear today. Like when you came through my studio and you heard that was just years and years and years of, you know what, let me try this compression on the back end. I never let like rules like get to me, because a lot of times, like when I went to the Art Institute, and they tell you like, don't over compress, don't do this, don't do that. And my thing is just like, if it sounds right, don't think too much about it. Like just go for it.
Man, imagine if RZA had listened to that shit, there'd be no Enter the 36 Chambers.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many artistic ways to use compression and EQ. I did have some professors that was like, there's no wrong way to mix a track. And obviously we know that that's not true, because there is really wrong ways to mix a track, but there's a lot of ways to get it right in different ways too. So I use that when I'm thinking of like new ways to create that sound. But learning frequencies is the easiest way to get what you're trying to get.
Got you. And I noticed you had a lot of different instruments there. How many instruments do you play?
Mainly just the piano. That I could play like guitar solos and stuff, and like I memorize it. It's as easy as just learn it. It's just like the piano. As long as you know music theory, I can get what I need to play to produce something. The drums, I don't record the drums, but I do sometimes go on there. If I make a melody or a sound loop or something that I create, I'll go on the drums, I'll sit on it, I'll play just to kind of get like a nice little feel for a rhythm. And then I'll come over here and I'll lay something down. But sometimes it's just a different perspective to feel it rather than to just play it on, a beat machine or something.
So if I was a younger man and I wanted to, build a professional studio in my house and make it economically viable, what would you advise me to acquire, and what skills would you say would be the most important at first?
When it comes to equipment, there's a couple little things I have that I love, and they're not even that expensive. Let me show you with the camera real quick. See if I can grab this. So right here, I love this thing. For engineers, I feel like you have to have this. And it's by TC Electronic. It's called the M Clarity, or the Clarity M.
I was wondering what that was, bro. I didn't want to keep interrupting you and asking you questions. Man, I'm so glad you showed me that.
So what this does right here is, as an engineer, you get a lot of like artists who'll be like, oh, it's just a decibel too low, or it's a decibel too loud. This thing is always on point. There's no lying. It gets you the same results every time. So like when I'm mixing my beats, I mix my 808s to a certain decibel level. I mix my kick to a certain level, my snare, my percussion, my filler snares, my melody, like all my instruments, my sounds. Everything has a number that I mix to, and then I glue it all together. And that's how I get it at the end of the day. Like everything's always across the board. It'll always sound, everything sounds cohesive. So when you send a mix to an artist and it's at the right levels, because also, I do a lot of like research. So I've grabbed songs from albums, like, like if it's J. Cole, if I'm doing like a song to make it sound like something that maybe Meek Mill or 2 Chainz, I'll grab one of their records and I'll play it against theirs and see like, okay, I might even grab the acapella just to see like where the vocals will sit and where the instrumental sits, gotcha. And I'll compare that to what I do. And so like ever since I got that, you don't have clients asking like, oh, you know what, can you turn that up a little bit? Because it's right on point.
So that's just like a studio hack right there, for real.
Yeah, it's definitely. And then learning like where to put instruments and like the levels to learning the sum of addition, or the sum of frequencies, I guess is what you call it. That's like the most important thing, because you know, you can't put everything at zero, or else it's gonna be, everything's gonna be distorted. You won't hear a lot of your instruments. So it's learning how to, you know, how to add up the frequencies. Like if you're gonna use multiple snares, you can't, like I'll mix my snares to you know, negative 10 decibels, right? When I'm mixing it. And you can't put like 3 snares at negative 10, because you're gonna have it way louder. So you can balance it to where they all equal up to negative 10 when they play together. You feel what I'm saying?
Yeah, exactly.
To make that
like
one sound.
3.33 or something. Yeah.
Yeah. So just learning how to, you know, certain theories like that, certain laws of engineering.
So how about the microphone? Like what would be a good mic? Because let's say me as a younger man, I got a decent budget, but not a great budget.
I mean, I've used everything from, you know, when I first started, I had a Sterling Audio ST66, and I recorded with that. I was in Iraq, and I recorded with that in Iraq, and the vocals were actually pretty decent. It was like a $200 mic, but you know, you definitely hear a difference when you upgrade mics. Like for the longest time, I had used a TLM 103, and I actually got it from Cassius. He gave it to me. It was the same one he used to record his vocals on the re-up. And he gave it to me as a, you know, as a gift. And I used that for a long time. And then I stepped up to what I have now, which is the Newman 67. And the reason why I chose that is because that's what Kanye chose to record his Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy album. And so I was trying to make my vocals, you know, in line with that album. So to me, it's like, really listen to what sound you're looking for, what artist you're trying to, you know, like if I'm an artist buying a microphone for myself, I'm gonna find, you know, an artist that I like and that I feel like I fit in their lane. And I'm gonna find out what type of microphone they use to record. And I'm gonna get me one like that.
Man, when
if I'm in this.
Oh, no, go ahead.
Oh, go ahead.
Well, I was gonna say, when I hear your passion and all this musical knowledge, like that makes me think of something. So if we're making a song, right, and let's say it's a jazz band, and I'm like, that trumpet player is terrible, he's got to go, I can technically get a production credit. But as an engineer, if you just take that trumpet player's sound out of the mix, you don't get a production credit. And I wonder why engineers aren't considered producers, because if you're doing your job right, that's just as much as part of producing as anything.
You know, I should have a lot of production credits. But that's just, you know.
What do you think of that concept though? Like it's.
Oh yeah, I mean,
because like really, what's the difference? Both of y'all took the trumpet player away, you know.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely there's one thing that just came out that is kind of really dope. DistroKid literally just put this out, I think today or recently. I just read it today, but now, basically, let's say I'm an engineer and I'm working with an artist, right? If I have an account through DistroKid as an engineer, or just an account, they can now put your money or a certain amount on the back end. So like if an artist says, hey, we're going to release this album, as long as you're, you know how they do the teams? Yeah. On DistroKid. So you set it up like that, but they now have it to where you can collect on the back end, to where the first so much amount of money that is owed to you will go to them before the artist collects money. Which saves a lot of trouble, because as an engineer, especially working in the industry, there's a lot of times where like, oh, you know, we'll pay you when the album drops, and then it never happens. And then you gotta, it's just a mess, you know?
Yeah, back and forth.
So definitely,
this is
definitely having tools like that. Yeah. Which you learn, you know what I'm saying? You learn how to navigate in a way to where you can't get screwed over no matter what happens. You know what I'm saying? Because obviously you have to learn that in this industry. Like there's a lot of, you know, there is going to be a lot of free work. You know, I definitely is going to be free work, but there's also ways to make it less painful, you know. And a lot of these tools are coming through companies like DistroKid, BeatStars. I think BeatStars is great for producers because, you know, at the end of the day, when you're sending out beats to artists, if they don't come with the paperwork or with the payment and they release the music, you're literally only you're basically waiving your leasing fee, but you're not giving up ownership of that song. And BeatStars kind of, you know, has your back on that part. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, hey, so everybody listening, go check out a recent episode I did with DJ Payne One, who has literally thousands of production credits, and he went in depth about how much BeatStar helps him and how he can use it to get paid properly.
That's my big bro right there, DJ Payne One, man. That's my big bro. He, in fact, he's produced. We have a whole project coming out sometime this year. He's produced. We released like 5 or 6 tracks in the past, but we have a whole project that we're just gonna put out at once. But he actually produced probably one of my biggest records. Yeah.
Like, what would that be?
The song's called Player, and it's me featuring Baby Bash and Man. And
man, I love Baby Bash, bro. I lived in Houston for a minute. People, man, if you ain't in the Texas, Mexico, you know, that whole area,
yeah,
they don't even know, because like in Texas, that's a real live superstar right there.
Yeah,
like he's selling out clubs, all that still.
Yeah, you know, he was really cool about, you know, getting the record done, you know, quickly, and we wanted to shoot a video for it. We just never did it at the time. But we're actually planning on see, the crazy thing is we actually made this 2 years ago. Well, about a year and a half ago. And I put the record out, no promo, just put it out. I was like, because the big plan is to re-release it with my DJ Payne One album, you know what I'm saying? And I released it a year and a half ago though, just to kind of put it out there and let it do its thing. But I didn't promote it, didn't have a video. And just this past quarter, when the royalty statements came out, you know, through ASCAP, I went and looked at the plays, and I'm 27,000 plays or streams short of 1 million. And that's with no promo, no nothing. So when I saw that, I was like, you know what, let's go ahead and let's do a video this summer.
Yeah.
And that's why I've been in the gym trying to get, you know, like in shape, you know, to shoot the video, because it's definitely something, you know.
Man, everybody that's listening to this, y'all need to cop a Baby Bash feature. Shit.
I'm telling you, they listen, you know what I'm saying? And people hear it. I see it getting Shazammed all the time. But yeah, I mean, the way the song,
are you from Texas?
I lived in Texas for like 6-7 years, and I'm actually moving back in October. I'll be moving back to Austin.
Oh man, like, you know, I moved here because my wife's parents are getting older, and she wanted to be near them, so we moved to Tampa. But you know, like I said, we was living in Houston for a long time, had the home studio and all that stuff. And man, I
love Houston. Yeah,
man, what I was gonna say, it's amazing, like the Latino dollar down there towards rap music. Like, there's artists that a lot of people don't know about, like GT Garza or Chingo Bling, and I'm sure you're aware of them. And these is people that, you know, I bet you they make more than 90% of the signed artists, you know, and people don't even understand. Yeah. People know nothing about it. It's a whole different rap culture. And the thing down there is a lot of those Latino, I mean, I ain't being racist, they Mexicans because they from Mexico. And you know, they still want to cop CDs and shit. So like I'd work with artists, you know, black cats. They'll want to make sure that they had a Latino artist featured on their album, because then they know that they can press CDs up and then go sell it. Because, you know, man, the Latino rap community in Texas is, good God, it supports its artists. Like it's no other. I remember I went to a GT Garza album release party at like a little, like, you know, like one of those high-end urban fashion boutiques, you know, like at the time you'd be copping like True Religions and shit from it. And and this place probably could only hold 75 people, and there must have been 1,500 people there, and it was for like a mixtape release basically. Like I bet you GT put out like 10 albums that year, and I was just flabbergasted, you know.
Yeah, no, GT Cars are going hard, man. Like, and you mentioned because I was just in Houston maybe in January, and I was actually working with Lil Flip. And
yes, I was saying, Lil Flip got an album with Baby Bash, a whole album. You know, people don't know about that shit, but yeah, my bad. Go ahead. So
he had just got done. Yeah, well, he had just got out of the studio, I think, like the week before with GT Garza, so they got a record coming out too. But GT Garza everywhere right now. Like I definitely been hearing him everywhere throughout Texas. But yeah, and then Chingo Bling too. I produced a couple records for him. in February, my homie, my co-producer, Cinematic on the Beat, we have a beat team.
Gotcha.
Money on Beats is what we go by, and we're both Mexican producers, and we've had a long history in the industry, and this is like, we feel like we finally found our moment to kind of break through. For me, like, honestly, I was pursuing more of like the artist and engineer side until about like a year and a half ago. I was like, I used to make excuses when I would produce. I'd be like, well, this is the kind of beats I make, and that's it. And if I needed like this kind of beat or this, or if I needed certain styles, I would just hit up, producers that I knew. But you get tired of waiting on other people sometimes, and it's just like, I just learned it myself.
Bro, I was like, I got tired of waiting for graphic designers, right? So I learned how to make covers, and I ended up making a cover for Snoop and a cover from Future. And I never in my life even had a desire to do that shit,
But it's learning these skills, and then just being prepared for the right opportunities. Because see, I had opportunity when I was living in LA. I had done a record with City Spud of the Saint Lunatics.
Right.
And I had produced a record, and he was like, who produced it? I was like, I did. But it was back then where like it took me a while to put this beat together. Like I had to actually orchestrate everything. It wasn't like today where I could just, jump in the seat and make something in like 20 minutes.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like this took a while, and it was like my best beat. So it wasn't just like, oh, like it's just one of my beats. It wasn't like that. And he brought me in for an opportunity. I was in Hollywood. I was at Nelly's Mansion with him and J.E. And it was all right, but it wasn't like, I wasn't prepared for that opportunity. You know what I'm saying?
Gotcha.
And that kind of, didn't fall through. And I told myself, like, the next time if that happened, I'll be more prepared. And I spent a lot of time just learning. I was traveling the whole country. I went from, I left Florida. I went to Austin for a little bit. I went to LA for a couple of months, and I was just with different producers. Day one, I was out with him in LA. We co-produced a couple records out there in LA. And I was just learning different things from different producers and using that as tools when I would create new beats. And I ended up reconnecting with City recently. And now I'm part of his production team, so that we're trying to work on getting placements and stuff with Nelly. And, what I'm saying? Just trying to, I was prepared this time. When I sent him beats, he was like, oh, okay. Like, you ready now? You know what I'm saying? And he offered me to be on his production team.
Yeah, that must have felt good to hear that though.
Yeah, definitely. I feel more ready too. Like I definitely feel like, I'm where I'm supposed to be. I'm where I belong.
I mean, we all tough guys, but we like a little bit of validation. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, it's nice, especially because you put in a lot of work. You know what I'm saying? And it definitely feels good to hear that validation. But yeah, it's been a crazy year and a half, to be honest. Like since when I said I was gonna be a producer, it was crazy. It was like instantaneously, because I started making beats like right there on the spot and just trying to get better. But the first beats that I made, when I decided that, I wouldn't say they were that good, but they were decent. And my homie hit me up. I actually got him his first credits with Cassius, because I had like hundreds of songs with Cassius that I'd done. And I saw him, he was opening up a studio in Austin, and he was having a lot of trouble getting people to listen. I just pushed play on one of his songs. I was like, he used to spam like his link on Facebook, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
And I was like, man, I'm gonna push play one time, and if it's not good, I'm blocking him. But if it's good, I'm gonna reach out, because that's what I do. Like if you have talent, like I like to work with you. I pushed play, I listened to it, and I was like, hey, he's pretty good, at mixing and shit. And I hit him up, and I gave him the opportunity, passed it along to him, because I already had, I had too many Cassius credits. I was like, dude, I could share some. You're good. You know what I'm saying? You could do the job. And it ended up coming full circle, because he was working with Lil Flip a couple years down the line. He's working with Lil Flip at his studio in Texas. And he hits me up. He's like, hey, Flip needs some beats. So I sent him over 3, and Flip used 2 of them, And it was the first 3 beats that I made. I sent him the first 3 that I made. The third one ended up getting sold a year later after I had made it. So it was crazy how it happened. One of the beats that he recorded to was his first single when he released his final album, The Leprechaun 2. He made a video for it and everything. It was his first single on his last album, his last solo album that he said he's ever putting out, you know. And so
well, I mean, bro, it's you. I ain't trying to get all woo woo on you, but that's the law of abundance, you know. Because you commented it's crazy how quick things happen for you, but then look at you giving other people opportunities. You know, that the synchronicity of that. Like I truly believe, especially like with music, you know, like you know, not to get all philosophical, but I feel like this conversation is important because somebody listening to you sees proof of concept that you can work in the music industry. You can acquire the skills as you work. You don't have to be tethered to some slave ass job that's destroying your spirit. You know, like if you got that love for music, you can make it happen. You know, it's an effort based thing. You know, it really is. Availability is the best ability, and just like everything you said, there's this common theme of you kept having this passion to learn and to improve. And you know, anyone who maintains that, you know, you don't have to have some job that you hate. You can work doing something you love, and it might not be making music. It might be cartoons. Everything this man's saying can be applied to something that you love. Like if you love reading, this is the work ethic that makes you become an author. If you love video games, this is the work ethic that makes you a video game designer. That curiosity, but also the motivation to do it. Do you ever find, you know, and being that that's a common thread, I'm curious, what do you do when you don't feel motivated? Like, how do you get yourself going?
I mean, look, I used to live in Anaheim, and now I live in Orlando, and so everywhere I lived is kind of like, you know, there's theme parks, and I do shit to get my mind off, like just to have a good time. I'm a single dad too, so that's why like having the home studio has always been important to me because my kids are in the house. You know what I'm saying?
Word. I get it, bro. I got three.
So yeah, so
that's why we had the home studio too. So straight square biz, because you spend so much time there, you ain't go. But you know, if you got the studio in the crib, now you can interact with the kid like 20 minutes every hour if you want to, instead of that 12 hours. You know.
There's a good and bad to that, you know what I'm saying? Because sometimes they feel like, you know, you're always off, but but they understand like too, when you gotta work, and they try not to, you know.
Plus they get to meet cool people and shit.
Yeah, like my son, he when we met Baby Bash, you know, to do the record, he was with me and he took a picture with him and Baby, you know, Bash had his kids with him, and so they were playing. I think we were playing Fortnite back then when it first came out.
I ain't never met him, but I've been around him. He a good dude.
Yeah. And he, you know, my son sent the picture to his mom. His mom was like, you know, big Baby Bash fan. I remember when we were, you know, we met in high school, and he sent her the picture, and she was like so jealous that, you know, because she used to have like a crush on Bash. I was like, ha, you ain't me bad, you know. But yeah, you know,
everybody keep a little bit of petty, little humble flex. I feel you. I can get with it.
Yeah, you know, my son, he, you know, even my daughter, they got to meet Cassius a lot. Like Cassius is always over my crib. Like he know my whole family, my grandma, my dad. Like, you know, Cassius was over. He was always over my crib when I lived in LA. Even when we were in Texas, we connected in Texas and we did a whole project out there. I think like 2 projects out there.
You ever mix an Eminem verse?
No. I did. I was on a track on the album where Eminem produced a record on it. I think it was County Hound 3, and I was on the first single. It was me, Cassius, Young Buck, and June B on the record, and it was called Kingpin. And I rapped on the 3rd verse. It go. Buck was on the 1st verse, Cassius was on the 2nd, I was on the 3rd.
You know, this episode is gonna go on Dirty Glove Bastard, and I'm gonna make sure we put all these songs and videos on there, because you know. I had no idea that you made music. Well, I knew you made music. I had no idea that you rapped, and I had no idea that you had this level of placements on.
Yeah, you know, I've always just kind of like, you know, kept in the background because I just like making music, bro. Like that's just how it's been, you know, in any situation. You know, with J-Haze, I met him when I was in LA, you know, with Show Off Gang. And back then I used to just, you know, I was like, yeah, I got a studio. Just come record if you need a spot to record. So back then, you know, I was just the engineer. When I was in LA, I was there to, you know, just record a session, and he was like, yo, play some beats, you know. He had Chromaz in the studio from Toronto. And so I was playing some beats, and I ended up getting the placement. I produced a song. It was co-produced by my homie Dramatic and myself. And the song Feelings Hurt was actually produced by us. And that's because I just, I was there in the studio. J-Haze was like, hey, play some, you know. So I'm always in those situations where, somebody be like, hey, what else do you do? Like Flip was the same way. Like he knew I produced. He knew me as a producer, not as an engineer or anything. He just knew me as a producer because that's what he was introduced to me. So when I came to his crib and we were going through beats and he was like, I'm gonna take that one. I'm gonna take that one. I'm gonna take that one. So he looked at me and he was like, so what all do you do? And I was like, pretty much put me in the studio and whatever you need me to do, like that's what I do. I'm like a utility player, you know what I'm saying?
Word.
So he's like, play a track. So I played this record and he was like, man, put a third verse on it and send it to me, and I'm gonna put that on my King Life movie, on the movie soundtrack. You know what I'm saying? So I mean, it just, being prepared. I always work. I'm always working at every single part of my craft. I never get tired of anything or unmotivated, because if I get tired of producing, I might go to write a song. I might just work on my engineering. I might just like get an old song and remix it just to, just to work on my skills and try some things out. So to me, it never gets old because this is just what I love doing. You know what I'm saying? It's like a science experiment, because sometimes I'm just trying some new shit and it ends up sounding so dope that the next session I go to and this artist is like doing something, I'm like, yo, I got something for it. And it's something completely different that they never heard before, because I just found it out, figured out, fucking with some parameters on, a plugin on Pro Tools or something.
Did you produce that song that they were making the other night?
No, that was one that J-Haze had already had the beat to. And I did produce a couple other ones.
And yeah, well, I was gonna make a point though, like, and you're an artist, and that beat was insane, but yet you didn't interject yourself, which is like 99% of rappers would have been trying, and then like. I'm sure you know about the resume comparing. Like the one thing I don't like when you get around a whole bunch of rap people, everybody just starts like touting their resume. Like one person says, I did a song with Wiz Khalifa. So then the next person got to tell about the time they did a song with Wiz Khalifa and Fiend. So then the next person's like, oh man, I've been fucking with No Limit since. I mean, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's just like, it's knowing your role. Like my role is just whatever they ask me to do, that's what I do. If he wants me to throw a verse on it, I'll throw a verse on it.
But that night you were supposed to mix that shit down and record them and mix it down as good as you could. So you just stayed focused on that and fuck trying to interject myself on this. None of that.
Yeah,
man,
I mean,
that's admirable, brother. Because like I wish there was more people like that. If nothing else, it would make backstage at events a lot more relaxed.
Yeah, I mean, and I get time where like people are like, put a verse on it, and I'm just like when I do production for artists or something, they'll be like, hey man, put a verse on it. I'm like, nah man, this is your record. Like I produced the record. Like I'm good just producing it. I don't need to be on. I'm not like Diddy. I don't got to be on the record. Like, you know what I'm saying? That's your record. You do your thing on it. I'm just gonna produce it. Like, you know what I'm saying? If you want me to get on this track, I'll get on the track. But you know what I'm saying? It's just knowing your role in certain situations, and I always say this a lot too, like when I'm talking to, different engineers or producers or artists or whatever it is, like, in some rooms, I may be the one who knows the most in the room. And in other situations, I'm the guy that's the fly on the wall. Like I've been in both situations, you know what I'm saying? Where you just have to know your role, because sometimes you'll have people go into certain parts and that'll be the last time they're invited because they want to talk too much or because they're interjecting themselves in something they shouldn't, you know what I'm saying? Like, I grew up with Cassius in this, in the environment where, he was signed to Eminem. So when we go places, he's the, I'm just there. You know what I'm saying? I'm just there because I'm his homie. I know he's gonna ask me to engineer the session, so that's what I'm gonna do, and that's all I'm gonna do. It wasn't until like recently where he basically, I've been produced. I think this year I produced about like 9 records for Cassius that released. I was at his crib and we just, we were there like 2 days at his crib and we produced like 6 of them right there. And then
I was about to say that's what's up. I fuck with Cassius. I'm gonna get you out. I ain't trying to take up too much of your time, and stay on when we get off because I'm gonna ask you something real quick. But two things. Who do you think is I feel Cassius is severely underrated. So give me another example of somebody you feel is severely underrated. Ray Cash is another one of mine.
I mean, Cash is definitely underrated. You know what I'm saying? His bars, like, I don't think people really give him a chance to listen to, you know, beyond. They always go to his shady days, and
Right.
they don't listen to some of his some of his biggest records are ones that are from, you know, from the last couple of years. I feel. Um, Maybe I'm a little biased, but I love the records that I produced for him. You know, they came out really good. There's a couple records I could think that we produced this year that came out this year. My
Sometimes
kid,
it's not biased, though, brother. When you hear them things in the studio, there's a certain magic that you never hear anywhere else, you know. And I guess unless you
yeah,
catch a great live performance of the record, but you know, like that going back to that song y'all made the other night, it just sounded so motherfucking epic. And I know it'll still sound great in the car or whatever, but it won't sound epic like how it did in that moment, you know.
yeah. Well, I mean, maybe that's what I try to do when I'm engineering. Is I try to create that same feeling. So when you listen to it, you remember that moment when you first heard it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I
Because
mean,
I know when
you
I'm
got the real ill monitors too, though, bro. Like that shit was that shit was banging. And then another John I wanted to ask you was who else is gonna be on this DJ Payne album with you?
So my homie Man, he's got a couple records with me. Man is, I don't know if you remember who Man is, but Man is the artist who did a song Buzzing with 50 Cent. And we linked up when I lived in LA. I ended up doing some engineering for him. I was helping him set up his studio, and we had some troubles. I was like, hey bro, like, you can just record in my crib, like, until we get this figured out, because he needed some pieces. I was like, just come through my studio. We ended up, you know, building a good relationship, and he ended up getting on a couple records, including the one with Baby Bash, and then we did another one that DJ One produced. Um, of course, Cash is going to be on it. I got a record with him and Dirty Mouth of Trillville, and
Okay.
the song is actually the part two to the song Some Cut, like what it is, ho, what's up. So on this
Oh,
one,
that's what's up.
yeah, this is the part
Bro,
two version
I
of
lived
it.
in Houston, bro. Like people don't know. Trillville went
Yeah,
hard as a motherfucker. They tried to lump him in with like D4L and shit if you weren't in the Texas area.
yeah.
It was something totally different, fellas. That was not crime
Yeah.
behind.
And see, me and Dirty Mouth, we linked up because somebody had paid him to get on the feature and got me on the song. And we just connected to that. He's like, yo, like, you know, I fuck with your verse. He's like, you know, you want to get on a couple of my records? I was like, okay. I ended up getting on like 4 records of his, and he got on a couple of mine. And, you know, we built a pretty good relationship. And,
Damn, bro, that means you made records with at least 3 people that made records with Pimp C.
you know, it's crazy, bro. Like some of these
That
things
shit, I
that
mean, shit like
happen.
that's crazy, right?
Yeah. And I know you notice, because especially in what you do, we have situations that we come across that for like the average person, to them it would be like a movie. You know what I'm saying? Like the shit that we lived, and you know, the behind the scenes stuff that happens, it's like a movie when it happens. You know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah.
shit, when I was in Houston, you know, just in January, I was at the script, you know, before I was meeting up with Flip. He was coming back from a show in Indiana, so I stopped by, you know, Screwed Up Records and Tapes, and I'm walking out the door, and as I'm walking out the door, Will Lean is standing there, and he's like, "Hey, what's up, man?" And we had
Shout out Lil
all
Lean.
star, yeah, we had party back All-Star Weekend like 6 years before that, or maybe even longer. And you know, I was way skinnier back then, so I was surprised he recognized me. And he's like, "Yo," he saw I had the exotic pop. You know what I'm saying? I got a bottle over here, and he's like, "Man, I know you're not gonna drink that by itself." Went to the car, threw some lean in it. You know what I'm saying? Like these things is just crazy. And then we end up
That's
going.
what's up. Motherfucker
Then,
Will Lean, that's the
yeah.
homie.
So he, you know, he poured some lean up in it, and then Flip hits me up and is like, "All right, here's the address. Meet me here." I had my backpack. You know, it was me and my co-producer. We had all of our music gear ready to produce. We show up and we're in Cloverland, and we're in the neighborhood of Cloverland, like where he's from. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And we don't know what we're doing here, but we see all these cars parked. Then all of a sudden, he pulls up in the Rolls Royce, the SUV Rolls Royce. He gets out of the car. We dap up, and he's like, "All right, follow me." We follow him into this house. They give him a mic as soon as he walks in, and he's performing all his greatest hits, like right there at this house party in Cloverland. This is a crazy shit, you know what I'm saying? Like behind the scenes that, you know, it's just, you never know what you get into. You never know who you meet. It's just, you know, it's something that I wouldn't change for nothing. You know what I'm saying? Like I love this life.
Shit, I heard that. So then, I mean, that's a good place, Zane, to close it. Go ahead, shout out your socials, where they can find your music, how they can link up with you for engineering, whatever, you know.
Yeah, I mean, pretty much everything is at Hollywood Cobain. You know what I'm saying? That's pretty much everything at Hollywood Cobain, and that's where you can find me on IG, Twitter, pretty much everything.
How them engineering rates?
Well, my website is www.theorangeroomorlando.com, and to mix a record is I charge $100 to mix per record.
That ain't bad.
If you're a producer and you just need instrumentals mixed, it's $50 to mix the instrumentals.
And I can tell y'all, I've been in hundreds of studios, and this man's has got as much as you need as Quad Studios, Baseline Studios in its heyday, any of that good stuff. Well, man, thank you for your time, brother. I appreciate you talking about this with me.
I appreciate you too, bro.
No doubt. The Super Facts Show, Hollywood Cobain, Mark Walter Award, Super Facts Network.
The Super Facts Network, home of Gen Pop, SDE, and the Super Facts Show. Now available on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts from. Come check out St. Laz, G from the Shop, and Mark Walter Award.